I guess there's always been a struggle in me, maybe about the tension about privilege and lack of privilege. You know, seeing lack of privilege around me and feeling I was privileged, and then becoming an artist and becoming less privileged. You know, and just having a sympathy. I guess I feel it's like humanity. Wallpaper. These are very much related to the scratchboards. They actually grew out of the scratchboard and the silver point. In some ways, it's a recapturing the freedom of my childhood, where I'm just investigating and playing, and one thing leads to the next, and it's the wonder of, oh, look at this, and what happens when you do this, and continuing with the theme of like jack of all trades, and I don't know, not being one thing specifically. I don't know if that's just the thing of having a foot in a lot of different cultures. You know, that my work is the same way, it seems. I was born in London, and then my parents decided to move to the Caribbean. They decided to invest with some investors in some property in the Caribbean because there were roots. If you look at the map, the islands are distributed in a sort of crescent shape, and Barbados is towards the south, a little bit outside the crescent. My life wasn't always easy. I was sent to boarding school at 12, and that was pretty tough. A lot of isolation in contrast to the warm, sunny Caribbean of the colors. It was pretty cold, you know, and I was far from my parent. I saw them twice a year. I know that I was interested in making art ever since I can remember. Probably out of a lot of the experience at the hotel, where I saw a lot of construction going on, a lot of renovation and designing, and jobs being jobbed out, like, you know, French windows. My father would design the proportions of the French windows, and then he'd have them fabricated. So, yeah, I came in with this photograph. I guess yeah, that's what it is behind me. Yeah, these are laces that actually my grandmother had made, my French grandmother, that I never knew because she died when my mother was 8. I hadn't done anything like this before, but I am interested in netting forms, a lot of netting forms, and these light kind of, almost not there kind of structures. And when I saw some of these laces, I thought, oh, these would be perfect translated into something really sturdy and really to change the scale, you know, make them more important, so they're taken more seriously. And people look at these and think, oh, you know, they're just cut out. But in fact, I pretty much went through over every pixel in that piece, you know, readjusting all the lines to sort of emphasize gravity, to make them feel, because I knew I wanted to hang them, so I wanted that feeling that they had weight and they were being pulled down by gravity. There was a period where I was doing just this, and it was driving me crazy. Which I think is part of why some of the humor came in. Part of that humor is sarcasm. It's also that like here I am, what's my life? It's just making holes. And these are the negatives for those etch pieces. You see, so it's all related, same idea as a repeating line. It's really tactile. So I have to think carefully about the spacing of the shapes and how much space in between them and how much overlap. There's a kind of attention to detail, a kind of repetition. The signature of my hand isn't really that important here, but there are little decisions being made about spacing. The handwork. There's a different kind of thinking that happens when you're working with your hands. Somehow it's sort of a more intuitive, at least I find. It allows me to, in some ways, let my mind roam. This is a copy of a scratchboard. It's just a photograph of a scratchboard. That's the kind of effect I'm usually looking for. If I've got an act, maybe some of the repetition when I'm working on something that's a bit meditational. In some ways, it makes me grow. I'm sure in some ways it puts you into play. It makes you grow, and I'm fine. It tells me who I am. Seems a little crazy sometimes, but it's feeding other ideas on a bigger scale. I mean, I think I have to have this to have there's a push and pull in my work. I need opposites, and when I found if I do too much of this, I'm driving myself crazy. But the hand is still at the center of my work, and the hand informs working in the computer and working with industrial processes. This could all be done by computer now. In the computer, I work really hard to actually try to preserve that feeling of handmade. I could build a spline and take that element and repeat it, say, to the computer, make it 100 times and then lay it along that spline. And then I'll take each element and stretch one a little bit in one direction, another one in another direction, and try to make them all a little bit different. And then I'll individually place them along that spline so that they feel like they're hand placed along there, that they were made by nature almost. Some of my work I've been doing wallpapers. There I'm really pushing for heightened color. I think it's also the Caribbean. There was this dichotomy between really strong, because of the light, the colors are very heightened, you know. And yet there's also, having grown up right by the beach, and on the beach there's also this bleached out. Things get bleached by the strong sun very quickly. Fidelity Investments approached me about doing a piece for their new building in Smithfield. And we ended up doing a whole wall of metal panels. So there was a sort of a reversal of indoor and outdoor, and there was a lot of stone wall and big open windows, and you could see the forest outside. So I thought the thing that was missing was water. It's 36 feet by 18 feet. Waterfalls in modern architecture that are these flat, they're coming down, and it's great because depending on the light where you're standing, the thing changes color, and you see these sort of rivulets, or you see these water droplets. So it has brought life into the space. For me, making art was very life-giving. It was very life-giving and affirming, but I'm also very interested in a lot of the hidden social tensions under the surface that are not expressed between humans, between people. Class issues, which I know it's not something people don't talk about much, but being in a rather privileged situation in this hotel, I was very young, so I got very attached to a lot of the people working in the hotel, and I saw how they lived, and so there was right in front of me, there was this what's behind the curtain, and I love both. I love both.